Great day, Mike here. So we are going to come up with something in the past. So I want to thank you for being here today. I do want to take a few minutes of your time. Not sure how long this will end up, but my goal here in this whole presentation is to kind of look at what's been going on in the commission debacle that's been going down here over the last several months. Historically, it's been going on for a little bit of time getting this all set up. And then, as you all know, in the last few weeks or so, there's been an order or a verdict uh, on the agency itself in terms of the National Association of Realtors, a lot of major firms and players in the industry. Today, my intention here and purpose with this recording is to give you guys a very direct and very simple and frankly easy process that you can and you should be using in your business. Back in, I think it was 1981, I attended an event down here in South Florida before I got into the retail business, and it was on real estate investing. And they used to have these big trade shows and congresses, they used to call them. And they had a series of speakers and trainers that came in and talked about different ways to invest in real estate. One of the participants of the event and or speakers at the event got up and did a presentation. I liked it a lot, so I bought the program. It was $400 at the time, and one of the uh, parts of the training was obviously how to invest in real estate, no money down, how to buy fix and flips, a number of different things within the framework of the real estate investing space. At any rate, one of the things that after you got this training, he would do these mini workshops that you would attend at one of the local hotels. The people that paid for the $400, you would come in, and it was a training session that you could, actually have the book and the cassettes, and then you had this one thing that he offered, which was a pretty cool thing down here in South Florida, where you would come in and you would meet with a bunch of people that signed up for the program. And this guy, his name was at the time Wes Coran, did took us through the workbook and the training. At any rate, one of the chapters, modules in the course that we were taking was on marketing, and of the many discussions about how to find sellers that were motivated, driving for dollars and newspapers back in the day, number of ways to find opportunity. One of the things he talked about was getting an agent to work for you and to help you find opportunity. Obviously, that was uh, a great thing because agents had access to the multiple listing service. Back in those days, there was the books. We had actual, they look like yellow pages. They happen to be white in this case, but they had all of the listings they came out every couple of weeks or so, and then you would actually see them, and the agents would look through them if you were looking in particular areas and parts of the city and so on. Okay. Anyway, so one of the things that Wes taught us was that if we were going to elicit the services of a realtor, that to incentivize them, that we should call them up, have a conversation with them, let us know, hey, we're in the investment business, and I want to know, are will you work with investors, help us find deals, help me find deals? And if it was a positive response, then I would go to the next step in its essence. I'm not going to get into the woods of every tactical side of it, but in its essence, I would say, great. Well, I'd like to sit down and meet with you and talk about what I'm looking for, my price ranges, all of the specific details. When would could we get together? Now, part of the mindset there was twofold. One was to let them know that we're serious investors. Two is that we wanted to elicit their services to help us find deals. They've already committed to wanting to work with us, work with me, should I say, at the time. And the third element was to engage them as my go-to person for helping me to find deals. And the incentive for them was that I would have an exclusive buyer agreement with them if it was if I felt it was worth it that I would have a signed buyer broker agreement with them, that they would be my go-to agent, and they would go out there and find opportunities, and they would get paid, whether it was off market, on market, whatever the case is. It was a exclusive agreement that we had with these brokers. So it was very interesting that this was taught back in the early 80s. Could, as far as I know, been before that. Not sure. I'm sure it was. There's some guys that are riding around in a horse and carriage now that probably had some of these things, but they never really talked about it. But um, I did, and I actually got into the retail business when I eventually got into the retail business. I used this same approach when I worked with my clients. Now, the funny part about it, or this, I don't know if it's funny or sad or however you want to look at it, but as an investor, I did this process where I would get this agent, as I was saying, and we would have an understanding and we'd have a buyer agreement and we'd sign on something. I did that with a couple of people, different parts of the county, because that was one of the things. I didn't want to limit myself, but I didn't want to be overzealous with getting a bunch of people and having a bunch of buyer broker agents walking around, but it was very tight. Anyway, when I got into the when I finally got my license, eventually got my real estate license, I uh, began to do this process of marketing and looking for listings and buyers and so on, right? But one of the things I did not do, and frankly, I didn't really think about it in the way that I'm going to share with you today, because it wasn't as profound, and well, doing the buyer broker thing was a very rare thing. We actually had our own agreement, which is somewhat similar to the ones that we have today in the multiple listing services and the uh, here in Florida, the agreements that are created by the attorneys and the associations, whatever the case might be, but I never really used it. But over time, I eventually did use them, and I trained on it. This was back in the uh, like the mid '90s that I really brought this out. And where it came out, and I determined that I was looking at some of the very top agents in the country, what they were doing to have high volume of business. I was a high volume producer eventually in the industry, but I did my business was strictly listings, and I worked with about 10% of the people that I worked with were buyers, and then the balance of any buyers that I had, I referred them out to a couple of people in my office, and that was kind of it. Very simple, not a complicated deal, because I was driven to be a listing agent at the time, and still believe that today. And I still believe that all of you should be doing that at any level that you can, because listings are the name of the game. As you've heard that trite and true statement, simply because you control your own destiny when you're working in that environment, in that space of having listings and controlling that in your business. That being said, when I had this process here, I engaged with a company down here, and some of you all know this story, but we opened up a mortgage. Well, it was already open anyway, but I came in to work with these guys. I partnered up with them, and they had a mortgage company, and they had a really small segment of their business, which was the real estate side. And Larry, who was the broker at the time, worked inside Burton Frank's office, the guy that I finally engaged with. And I came on as a trainer, recruiter, and working with teams and things like that in the system. At any rate, to keep this very simple as best I can, we decided that we were going to set up a methodology and a very uh, well-oiled machine of lead generation, marketing, exposure, appointment setting, lead generation, um, closing, signing contracts, getting people in to our space, into our world. So we did a tremendous amount of marketing, direct mail, cold calling, number of things to drive traffic. The intention was twofold. There's a couple of elements inside of it, but basic twofold was to offer refinance money, because we were in the banking, the mortgage side of the business. And the second part of it was the real estate side, which is what we call in the mortgage business purchase monies. So purchase money are people that want to buy a home, and we would get them financing. So our mission, if we generated leads, was to get refinance clients that would want to come in, refinance their mortgage, pay off debt, etc., lower rates, whatever the case might be. The second was purchase money, where they would come in, get qualified for a loan, and then they would go out there and find a home and buy it, and we would do the loan for them. So we figured, well, what the heck? We got a real estate company, we got a mortgage company. Why not bring them in? And we have two sales, which is the obvious refinance money and then the purchase money. Now, within the purchase money spectrum, what we basically did is we arranged an appointment for the folks to come in, and then we would uh, have our loan officer meet with that individual, qualify them out for their ability and capability and so on to be able to get a loan to buy a home. Basically, that was it, right? Get a loan to buy a home. At the end of that meeting, once we've determined that they were qualified, able to buy something, their credit was checked, we checked their income, a number of various and sundry things that we did, as your mortgage brokers will still do to this day. Um, Once that was completed, then the next step was the obvious next step. So since we had the real estate firm already, then we would invite our buyer agent into that particular meeting with the client. So the loan officer would introduce the buyer agent in our real estate firm into that meeting, and they would sit down and do a consultation. So we've already figured out they can buy a, let's say, $150,000 home, and there's some general idea where they want it to go. But the agent that our buyer agent that came in sat down and really did the full boat consultation. It was a very structured process. I'm not going to get into the woods on that here for my intentions here, but I just want to give you the overview. Now, at the end of that consultation, we had a very simple process. I'm going to go through that with you here in a second. And that process was that intro was very formalized. Second was the consultation. In other words, we had a series of questions. I'll just kind of put it up here. Let me see if I have it here. I should have this up on the frame. Let me get this up here so you guys can see that. Okay. So as you can see here to the right of your screen, the buyer renter consultation questionnaire. Now, I paid good money for this. Back in the day, we invested, I think, like 3 grand. We got this from a current agent that was in the business. I knew her very well from the connections that I had, and she was using this philosophy. She had a very similar methodology, and I basically adopted it into our world. And so my buyer agents would go through this. Let me see if I go like this. You can see they went through this whole consultation. There's a couple of pages in this, not just one page as you see, but there's a couple of pages, probably about two or three. At any rate, so they go through this whole process and they ask all of these questions to vet out this particular client. Now, the next step after that, which was over here, when we would go into what we would call the home searches, a home search services plan and commitment to you. Now, basically, if you're in the listing side and you know my work, we have a marketing plan of action with sellers. You know, when we go meet with them, they're probably asking, you know, what are you going to do to sell my home? And we have a series of things that we do, and we go through that with them to let them know what we're going to do to get their house exposed, sold, on the once we got it on the market, get it exposed and sold for them. And the goal there, obviously, was to let them know this is the value proposition we bring to the table. We're not just going to get a listing, put a sign, put it on the MLS, and hope for the best. We had a very strategic and specific plan of action to get their home sold. So that was a part of the presentation. The same philosophy went through here. We had a very simple marketing plan of action when working with buyers. Excuse me one second. So that came in, that was something there. Anyway, you may have heard that, you may not have. My phone was buzzing. At any rate, so we used this plan of action that we showed the buyer. So after we went through this consultation. The next step was we now let them know. So in the end of this here, the stage right here of the process, at the end of that, it says at the very bottom of that sheet, now move over, and I'm telling you this sequentially so you get it. Now it's time to go to the proceed to the plan of action, the next step here, and then we go into this. And then we would share with the client, the prospect, what we're going to do to work with them, how we do it, what we do, what the expectations are, so on and so forth. Very simple, but yet very detailed. So there's no questions as to what they're going to do. Now, the goal here, guys, is really a value proposition. You know, in today's market, we have all of these lawsuits and this garbage going down because of, honestly, this should have been done a long time ago. But again, I'm not running these companies. And even if you think about a company like Keller Williams, when I worked inside of their organization as a coach for them, I had the opportunity to see some of the inner workings, right? But this whole process was there as well. I mean, basically, you know, yeah, I come back from the old days, the horse and carriage thing, but at the end of the day, Gary Keller, they had the system out because why? Because a lot of the the very top producers were using this same methodology. They didn't do maybe exactly like this, but we all kind of did the same thing. This is the consultation process, just like you're going to a doctor. They're going to sit you and ask you a bunch of questions, the answer, then they're going to take you to the next step. Now here's the next step in the process, and this is how we're going to do what we're going to do to make you better and healed like the doctor of selling philosophy. In this whole process that you see in front of you here, okay, this is that plan that we're going to do. Now, the goal here is to build confidence and collaboration and relationship with the clients that we are working with and we're working with. Okay. Now, once we went through this that you see on your screen, we completed that. Do you have any questions about what we're going to do to help you find a home? No, we're very clear. And so we again reiterated, are you any questions whatsoever? You sure? Great. Then the next step here, guys, this is the trick that you guys must, and I would definitely encourage you to do, mainly, if not more important than my day, but today with this buyer seller commission garbage that's going down. Okay, listen, guys, at the end of the day, before I go on here, at the end of the day, let me go back here real quick. At the end of the day, you all provide a service. The attorneys that represent these complaining sellers, and now there's buyers out there complaining that agents were taking advantage and they puffed up prices so they can get paid a commission. That's all a bunch of hogwash, in my humble opinion. Okay, there's people out there saying, "Well, don't panic." Well, listen, I wouldn't say don't panic. I would just say, listen, be aware of what is going to go down here, because now this is tempering into the psychology of the consumer marketplace, and these conversations are going to go down in my humble opinion. Okay. At the end of the day, the reality of it all is that the representation from the judges to the attorneys that represent these folks are all getting paid a fee. I mean, this $1.8 billion Cookie thing that they're wanting to charge, and it's go up to $6 billion, and there's others that are up to $250 billion, something wacko. At the end of the day, comes down to this: somebody's going to get paid a fee for getting that money. Yeah, we are barked upon for I wouldn't say measly 6% because it is a good amount of money in today's terms based on the numbers, but fundamentally we are charging a fee for the services that we are providing. Shouldn't we get and earn money? Should we do this because we're mercenaries? Because we're nice guys and gals? No, we need to get paid for our services because we provide an invaluable service. Okay. And somewhere in this recording, maybe if I don't put it here, you'll definitely get it. There's a list of things that you do that people don't figure out, right? And honestly, I would give it to everybody. So just so you're aware of what we do for free until your home sells and closes, okay? We don't get paid but we'll put this all up front. We're putting our time, our energy, and our capital in advance of actually getting any compensation whatsoever. So we're frankly at the risk of people making decisions, contracts being negotiated, inspections being passed, lenders lending money. There's a number of factors. So we're kind of out there. That's why we're all pretty nervous in the industry, not because of this, because of the nature of our industry. Okay. We count on those commissions to feed our family, take care of our legacy, to build our businesses, and so on. And people want to get into our crawl because we're providing an invaluable service, and they're calling it, we're in control. When in reality, it says on a piece of paper, you agree to pay a commission. If you don't agree to it, then scratch it out, and I'll either agree to enable you to scratch it out, or I'll say, no, I can't work with you. Hey, that's my choice, and it's the prospect's choice, right? And these people, with all their intentions of wanting to control our destiny with this commission crap, is I get it, okay? I get, because some coaches and trainers and people in our space, sell, well, if you cut the commission, then you're going to offer a commission lower to the buyer agent. They're not going to be incentivized to want to show your home because the commission is low. Well, frankly, if anybody's teaching that, they should be kicked out of the industry altogether, because I never taught that. I believe in one thing: a person wants a house, right? And probably because what I'm sharing with you today, I didn't really think about it, didn't worry about it. It wasn't a part of my mindset. However, here's the bottom line. If a person wants a house and that seller happens to be offering a 1% commission to versus somebody down the street who's offering a 2 or 3% commission, I should not be incentivized or take away that value to that buyer, especially if they like that home. Well, I'm not going to show that house because it's only offering a 1% commission. Bullshit. You need to get paid what you're worth and what they are paying you, unless you otherwise step up and do what I'm going to suggest here in a second, and charge what you want to charge and get what you want to get, right? You should never derail people or steer them away from a particular property because you're not getting paid enough money. It's cheesy. It's frankly, it's salesy. It's greasy. It's slimy. Don't do it. Okay. If you can't figure your value and even charge them for your value, then honestly, you should leave the business, because it's not fair. Because, well, I can't we just look at that? No, it's not available. They already have a bunch of contracts on it, and you do not want to buy because it's got this particular problem with the house or whatever. Now, I know most of you guys will not do that. I hope none of you do that. But if you ever think about it, don't. Please, I beg of you, because you're making it look bad for everybody. Or for those of you who never do that and you understand what I'm saying, other people that do it make us look bad overall at the end of the day. So please be very aware of those types of things. Anyway, I don't want to digress here, but I wanted to get into this because it's that important, because we have to present a value proposition to the marketplace, buyers and sellers, whether they're homeowners or investors, whatever the case might be, doesn't matter. So, that being said, we got step one, the meet and greet. Okay, now that's over here. This will be a part of your downloads. You all can certainly pull down. You're more than welcome to look at this. This is more of the buyer setting appointment script. That'll be there for you. We'll talk about that in detail at another time. Step two, if I can remember to do this here. Okay, step two is this from here. Okay, this is when now you meet them, and then you're going through this consultation. Then after this, then you're going into what you're going to do to help them find a home. And then once you go through this and you present it in a powerful and professional manner, then you're going to say, now how I work. That's it. Very simple. Mary, Bob, this is how I work. Okay. Any questions on this? No. Perfect. So let me tell you how I work. I work on a buyer agreement. Okay. And here it is, guys. Now, this one, you can look it up. This is an older one. I only did this for, as I wrote here, sample at the top. So it may change as of today. Some things in here may change. This is a couple of different pages, and it basically outlines what they're looking for, some fundamentals there. price points. Let me see if I can pull this up a little bit bigger for you guys. Let's see if that happens. Okay. And basically that's it. Okay. And then there's some terms that the broker obligations. And basically, there's another section on here on how you're going to get paid. Okay. So that being said, over here, this buyer agreement, guys, is the key to freedom for you. Now, how we did it, okay, in our time, and you can do it in this time as well. If sellers are agreeing to pay a commission to buyer brokers, which will pretty much kind of dwindle away, not in a just in its natural occurrence, because now brokers are telling their agents, do not offer, you don't have to offer, you're not required to offer. The seller does not have to decide if they want to offer a buyer broker commission. Okay, be aware of it, guys. If it doesn't exist on your MLS, it's probably not going to exist at all. Okay. However, if there are some people that are willing to pay, like I'm in the belief that if I'm a seller, I want to incentivize the whole market to bring buyers to my home to sell it. The more incentive that I can offer, and sure, money speaks. Okay. Now, whether it's 1%, 2%, or 3% is doesn't go back on my point of, doesn't take away my point that doesn't matter what it is, you just accept it what it is. But this here helps to alleviate your fear of getting a lesser commission because the seller is only offering one when you really want maybe three, let's say, as an example, or two. Okay. But my point in all of this is that you have this agreement with a buyer. Okay. Inside of this agreement, it stipulates that they will pay you a fee. And you can put it a minimum, you can put it at a maximum, you can figure out what you want to do. You can call me up, we could talk about some of my recommendations, what to do there. My simple recommendation is you should have a minimum of 3% as the offer. Now, you may accept less, you may choose to want to do charge less, you may want to charge more than 3%, but my bare minimum is 3%. Anything under 100 grand, that back in the day, that's a down payment today, but back in the day, under $100,000, I had a minimum of 2% back in my time. But today, if anybody's doing anything, let's say less than 150,000, there's definitely a minimum of, let's say, 3%. Now there are condos and things like that. It depends on where you are in the world. That if you're up in Ohio, as an example, price points up there are what 125, 150. Michigan, same thing down here in South Florida. I mean, that's a down payment and it's a shack, right? But at the end of the day, my point is this: if the agreement itself says 3% minimum, the agreement also states that if the seller is offering a commission, that will be offset. So if I say I need a minimum of three, but the seller's going to pay me three, right? Then the buyer doesn't owe me the three. But if the seller is paying two and I need or want three, and you get that you will pay the three, then the seller will pay me two and you, the buyer, will pay me the balance or the difference of one. Okay. I hope that makes sense. And it's clearly written out here. The part of this broker agreement, in addition to that, it offers exclusivity and fiduciary. Okay. And oftentimes you're going to see what they have, like in Florida here, we have transactional brokers, we have exclusive brokers, both listing and buyers, right? So there's a fiduciary. I represent the buyer. Okay. In this case, I will negotiate the very best to steal that house if I need to help you get that. On the seller side, if I don't have any agreement, I got to protect the interest of the seller because that's the agreement within the multiple listing service. If I have an agreement with a buyer, I can do the same thing. They want to sell for the highest, I want to buy for the lowest. Okay. So I'm not going to get into the depth and legalities and all of these things here. You need to engage with your brokers and legal teams if you have them inside your companies. See what they want you to be able to do to protect their interest, because ultimately, short of you being the broker, they're ultimately responsible for all these things, and you're a part of that responsibility as well. So I would suggest that you speak to your hotlines, what you can and cannot do, understand these agreements. They're very important that you understand because they should be coming out. If not, they will be coming out into a more presence and opportunity for you all in the business. Now, my 2 cents on this is very simple, and I'm going to wrap this up. We're into this for 30 minutes. I'm going to wrap this up here in a couple of minutes. You need to be doing this. Okay. It sets you apart. And if buyers do not want to work with you exclusively, in my humble opinion, you don't need to be working with them, because how are you going to trust them? Because really, at the end of the day, the way this process is going, current state, the sellers are and the listing agents. So that's why you need to be a listing agent. But the people are going to put their these listing agents and put their properties, which are already populated, into the public domain, i.e., Redfin or Realtor.com or Zillow, more importantly, because they're more to anybody that wants to sell their home. But the population, once you put in all the listings, populates right into Zillow, and your buyers can call those agents directly. If you don't have this agreement that you see in front of you here, you're out of luck. I'm sorry, because they can and they will go direct. This offers that they can call anybody. They can call a buy owner, expired listing, a cancel listing. You can knock on a door, cold call. They can do all the marketing for you and bring you that list of sellers that maybe want to sell, and you can do whatever you do to make that deal happen, right? And you'll always get paid because you have this agreement. Now, will it stand up in court? More than likely. Will you go forward with it? I can tell you, we tore up a handful of them. We never pursued people. If they took advantage of us, it was very rare because we had such a profound presentation that we had set up with these people. There was a high level of trust and authority that we established with these people. They trusted us so much, and we did our jobs fully because of the way we did what we did. So in the rare cases that people screwed us, or we called up and said, "Oh, I'm sorry, Michael, we bought a house somewhere else." You know what? What am I going to do? Pursue them and spend more money that I'm going to lose in time and energy? I just tore up the agreement. And the reason was because I didn't want to waste the time and money. And two, I had more than I needed. Okay. I wasn't dependent on one particular client. And we were pushing in the space that we were doing this at very high volume, including my own business. But in this particular environment where we were doing this, we were pushing 200 plus transactions per month in doing this process here. Okay. A good 60% was refi money, and a good 60 to 50 to 70%, and another 20 to 30% on the purchase money side. So we had a balance of both. Okay. But at the end of the day, you have more than you need. So if you needed to pursue somebody because they went around your back or behind you, or try to screw you out of your earnings, well, so be it. You can choose what you want to do. I'm not telling you not to do it if you feel that you need to be compelled. You've made investments, you want your money, they really took advantage of you, take their asses to court. I don't know. Get advice on that. I'm not an attorney, I'm not an accountant. I'm just a sales guy, coach. Okay. But not licensed in those arenas. But I do understand that it could be time and time cost and capital cost to pursue. But again, you make your own personal choice there. If you're on the high end of the marketplace, you're talking about $1 million plus properties, and it's a large earnings for you. And people take advantage of it, and they think, well, we're more sophisticated than the other lowly people in this world, then you should push the envelope there. But again, guys, it's all in the presentation, to be quite transparent here. It's all about how you present this and set it up. I have a client now who does this only. He's already been taken advantage of, not because he didn't choose to do this, but because he was working in this field and he had buyers that he was working with. And I told him, I said, do this process here. And I'm telling all of you guys, anybody who's getting this, is either a client or a past client or, God willing, a future client. But whatever the case might be, you need to be doing this in your business beginning right now. You need to learn it. We need to talk about it if you're one of my clients. And if you're not one of my clients and you want to talk about it, you can also pick up the phone, because I'm here to help in any way that I possibly can. Okay. But I don't need you to be out there nervous and, oh, what's going to happen? Am I going to lose my business? No, you'll lose your business if you choose to lose your business. This is what we call a necessary pivot. Okay. This is just a necessary thing. But frankly, It should have never been necessary. And honestly, if you never did this, and I tell clients, I've been telling you, you need to have a buyer agreement, and most of you guys do not do it, and well, that's a personal choice. Now it's imperative. It really is, and you should do it. There's no big deal. I mean, you go to a listing, you take a listing, for crying out loud, you got a listing agreement. Well, wait a minute, I'm working with a buyer, but oh, they're not going to sign anything. Then don't work with their asses. Go get a new buyer. Now, if you're a marketing person and you're out there and you're working the deal, you should not have any problem. You don't need everybody because you're not going to get everybody. Okay. Let me just shut this off. I'll call you right back. Sorry about that because I got it in the background. I got connections here all over the place. God willing, this is being recorded right now. But anyway, so guys, very simple. Okay. Stage one is this a setting script here. Stage two, okay, is this consultation here. Stage three is this plan of action. And you'll have this down below. You can click it. And there's more, there's going to be other recordings in here, which is the full overview of all of these things. And then stage four, get their agreement on paper here. Okay. So I'm done here, guys. This has been what, 36 minutes. Going to go on here in a in the process here. At the end of the day, do yourselves the favor. Okay. Do yourselves the favor, get this down. It's going to be a requirement. Learn what's going on in the marketplace. Talk to your brokerages, your team leads, your corporate headquarters. I'm assuming they're already bringing it up. I've talked to a couple of people. It's already being brought up to within Caldwell Banker, KW. It's being pushed out there. And you just have to understand what you can, what you should, what you must not do. You need to protect your own interest, your own value, and your own opportunity. That's the bottom line. What will overcome all of this is your profound ability. Make a note of this. If you skipped all the way to the end to see what I had to say, or you've been listening to this whole time, or those who did not listen to this, it comes down to this. You make the difference. Okay. These are tactical, contractual understandings between people. That's the deal. Okay. At the end of the day, what's going to get people in anything that we do, whether it's buying dinner at the local restaurant, getting a computer at the local computer store, or buying and selling or investing in real estate? What it comes down to is, what is the value proposition that you're bringing to the table? How well do you present that value proposition? Because you know what? At the end of the day, I can buy a computer from this company or I can buy one from this company. Who is going to help me be more confident in that purchase? Because the computer is the computer. A house is a house, right? Okay, sure, they're all different, big and small, expensive and not so expensive. You know what I mean? But at the end of the day, it comes down to the sales pro who sits down and has a profound, great consultation with their client, who makes them feel comfortable and they are willing to pay any price because of your value that you're bringing to the table. At the end of the day, kind of like the guys that are suing the real estate brokerages. They had some great attorneys who made a great pitch. Oh, yeah, we'll get you billions of dollars. And some people got sucked into it, including a jury. So it came down to the presentation, which I thought, in defense of our part of the business, they sucked. Okay. Yeah, I'm being pretty radical there. They didn't do the job they could have done. I mean, I'm thinking about how many ways I would have presented that deal just to get them to do it. And the first thing I would have said, listen, guys, the attorneys that you all hired here, are they doing this because they're mercenaries? They're going to do this for free? Or are they charging you probably 20 to 40% of that $1.8 billion that you want the brokerages to pay? Huh? Yeah. That to me would have stirred that jury up. And I don't know if I could have ethically done that in front of the jury, but assuming I can, it's my closing argument. And that would have been one of them. Okay. But at the end of the day, present your value, give it to them in a very profound way, and be the authentic and powerful person that you are. Don't let all these things get in your way because we did this back in the 90s. I did it early on in the early 80s, and I will continue to recommend that you do it today, especially more than ever before. Really, really important. So don't be missiled by and get confused and overwhelmed and get in fear. Again, to reiterate, okay, these are legal agreements. Talk with your teams, your brokerages, get a clear understanding of what they are. They're on the multiple listing services that you have available to you. Talk to your local state boards if you need to, the hotlines, whatever they got going on, your hotlines in your office, whatever it takes there. I'm just going to be a conduit and a messenger here. I am not the ultimate message here. Clearly understand what these all mean. I'm disclosing that now. I'm not an attorney, a CPA. I'm just a lay guy, okay, who's out here giving you suggestions, keeping it very simple. What I will tell you where I'm good at is presenting. And what you need to do is present your proposition. Why should I buy and work with you versus the other person? That's the deal. If you can get away with that, you've done your job. Period. Right? All we have to do is let you know how I work. And I work by exclusivity, I work by agreement. Simple, not complicated. That's the deal. All right, guys, listen, somewhere on here, there's some links, downloads, phone numbers, whatever you want to do, reach out to me. You see it on the bottom there. And this is one of our companies here, the Winners News Network. Okay. But I'm here to help you in any way that I possibly can. All right. So there's also a link in here that you're going to watch some in-depth training that I did. It's pretty much the detail of all of this today. It is going to probably be, listen, you need to invest some time. Okay. Oh, but Mike, do I have to really watch these videos? No, you don't have to. You can get sued and not make any money. Do what you want to do. You can look like an idiot and seem like you know everything and be cocky and arrogant because you don't want any training. And well, I know that stuff. I don't need to do that. Oh, it's not me. It's not the way I do things. You can choose whatever you want to choose. My goal is if I present it to you, if I see something, I have to say something. And if you don't do anything with it, totally up to you. That's the deal. If you want to make your life easy, make it seamless, make it more profitable and opportunistic for you, then you might want to consider watching the recordings more than once, taking copious notes, asking questions for clarification to make sure that you're on the right path of me and of your leadership in your companies and of your services, like them or not, the NAR, the local boards, the state boards, all of those things. You're going to be committed to this deal, then be the profession. I have a friend of mine who's the doctor, and he's even retired, but to keep his license active, he's got to go through a lot of stuff every few years to keep himself on top of the game. And he's committed to doing it. Not easy work, but you know what? Hey, just in case, which he's considering doing consulting work in that space, he's glad he kept his license going. So that's the world we're in, guys. So best of luck with all you do. Let me know again if you have any questions. We'll talk to you later. Make it happen. Talk to you soon. Thanks so much for your time, and we're out.